Hello, and welcome to Manager Notification Training. Notifying an employee that they're losing their job is one of the most challenging conversations you will have as a manager. Many managers have admitted feeling anxious, nervous, or uncertain in the days or weeks leading up to the event. This is extremely common. Fortunately, we've put together a video that will not only help you plan and prepare effectively, will also help you better understand what to expect and how to manage difficult situations when it comes time to schedule your own notifications. Now, before we go any further, let's take a look and see what happens when a manager isn't prepared for a notification meeting.
John, look, now, before you get mad, this wasn't my idea. You're being laid off. Please don't be angry.
What do you mean I'm being laid off? I've worked here for 20 years. I've worked my tail off for this place. It should be those guys. They should be the ones being laid off. Or you. What do you even do here?
Wow. Can you see how stressful that was for both the manager and the employee? This is the type of situation you can encounter as a manager if you lack the necessary preparation. Fortunately, it doesn't have to be this way. As a manager, there are a number of best practices you can use to ensure employees feel respected and heard, even in difficult times such as these. Over the next few minutes, we'll walk you through different scenarios as well as provide you with key insights. With that in mind, let's begin with an overview of notification meeting basics. Typically, notification meetings should be approximately 10 to 15 minutes, but no more than 20. This will allow enough time to deliver your message and answer any questions a newly transitioning employee may have. In the event you have back-to-back meetings, please allow yourself 5 to 10 minutes in between each as to avoid any awkward interactions for you or your employees. You and your transitioning employees can also use this time to stop and collect yourselves if needed. The 5 keys to delivering a successful notification are as follows. Set the tone for the meeting and be mindful of emotions. Deliver the notifications as rehearsed. Listen and respond compassionately and appropriately. Share the information and next steps, and close the meeting. Now, before we get to scheduling, let's take a few brief moments to discuss the benefits of proper planning and preparation, as this will help you conduct a respectful and compassionate notification meeting while ensuring the best possible outcome for newly transitioning employees. One of the most important steps in notification preparation is understanding how to deal with any emotional reactions you may encounter. Before you meet with a transitioning employee, be sure to consider how they may react to the news you have to give. The more effectively you can anticipate their reaction, the better prepared you'll be when it comes time to deliver the message. Now, let's take a moment to watch a scene between Mary, a manager, and Sean, a transitioning employee, just after she's delivered the news.
I know this is difficult news to hear. Do you have any questions?
I don't understand. So what happens now?
Here's a list of resources we've assembled to help you with your transition. This folder contains important information about the outplacement resources you've been offered.
Although Sean struggled with the information he had been given, Mary's preparation enabled her to remain compassionate and maintain her composure during their meeting, and still provide Sean with helpful information on next steps, making the most of a difficult situation. Fortunately, not everyone reacts to stressful news the same way. At the top of this video, we saw a manager who was unprepared for her meeting and the emotional outburst that followed as a result. Now, let's see how a similar meeting would have gone had the manager been prepared.
I need to inform you, your position has been eliminated effective immediately.
What? Are you serious? After all I've done for this place? Who do you think you are?
I know this is difficult news to hear. However, the decision is final. Do you understand what I'm sharing with you?
Yes, I understand.
See the difference? Not only was Karina prepared to deliver the message, she lowered her voice to de-escalate John's emotions. She also took time to let John absorb the news before moving on to the next step and closing the meeting. As you've noticed in these scenarios, both Mary and Karina exhibited compassion and respect during their meetings. This can be difficult to do without setting aside time to practice. Prior to delivering any notifications, be sure to rehearse what you have to say and do it out loud. Be clear, concise, and compassionate in your delivery. Do not add words or information that may cause confusion or lead someone to believe the decision is temporary or flexible in any way. Be respectful in your approach as you prepare your transition employee for the next phase. In the event you have any questions, be sure to consult with HR or senior management to gain additional clarity. Another key factor to consider when preparing for upcoming notification is the location where you intend to hold the meeting. Whenever possible, consider using a neutral setting such as a conference room, as this will give you and the employee privacy. Doors should always be closed, clear glass panel walls and windows should be covered. Remember, this is a difficult conversation. Keep it private. You should also provide access to water and tissue in the event an employee may need to compose him or herself during the meeting. Make sure you always have access to a phone in case of emergency. If you have a cell phone with you, set it to silent to avoid interruptions. Lastly, you should give yourself clear and close access to the door in the event you need to leave the room quickly. You will also want to consider the process or next steps for the employee after the meeting ends. If the employment ends immediately, will a security escort be needed to accompany the employee out of the building? Do they have company assets like a computer or cell phone at home? What about their personal belongings at their desk or work area? Are they too upset to drive? Will you need to arrange transportation so they get home safely? Are they a member of a company rideshare program or carpool? As you can see, there's plenty to consider before, during, and after notification has occurred. We suggest discussing contingencies, such as these with your HR representative or a member of senior management to eliminate the risk of uncertainty prior to conducting your meetings. Now that you have practiced your message and performed the necessary preparations, let's take a few moments to focus on the different types of reactions and emotions you can expect to encounter, and how you might best approach them going forward. As we touched on in the opening, it's not uncommon for managers to feel anxious over how an employee might respond once they have been informed that their time with your company has come to an end. But with the right approach, you will be better equipped to handle these situations compassionately and respectfully. The most common employee reactions you may experience during a notification meeting are shock or denial, anger, crying, and bargaining. Keep in mind, employees experiencing shock or denial may not initially react outwardly upon hearing the news. In some cases, they may argue or even try to leave the room before you finish communicating your message. You may experience one or more of these reactions within the same meeting. How do we approach someone who reacts like this? First, let's take a look at how not to do it with our manager, Christine, and Rita, the employee.
I need to inform you that your position is being eliminated. Today will be your last day.
No, it can't be. I'm in the middle of a big project. If I leave, it'll fall apart. You can't get rid of me.
I'm sorry, I know that this is hard, but it's for the best. You have your whole career ahead of you.
As you just saw, Rita reacted with shock and denial upon hearing her employment had come to an end. However, it's important to remember that as her manager, Christine should not apologize, as this suggests that she is in a position to change the situation. She should also avoid making statements or performing actions meant to console, as she cannot possibly know what emotions Rita may be experiencing or what lies ahead in her future. Now, let's take a look at how the same scene might have played out had Christine taken a more suitable approach.
I need to inform you your position is being eliminated. Today will be your last day.
No, it can't be. I have a huge project coming up. Everything is riding on it. You can't do this.
I know this is difficult news to hear. However, it is important you recognize that this decision is final.
Before we move forward, I need to be sure you understand what I have just told you.
I understand.
Okay then. At this time, I would like to ask, do you have any questions?
Although Rita had the same reaction, Christine was able to acknowledge her emotions without apologizing or escalating the situation with the phrase, "I know this is difficult news to hear." Consider using the same or similar phrase when conducting your own notification meetings. Proceed by confirming the employee understands what you've said. This will also help with acceptance. As you move through the remainder of your meeting, be sure to ask questions that must be answered beyond a simple yes or no, and watch for any subtle reactions. While it's true, no two notification meetings are the same, managers typically are most concerned with the possibility that an employee may react to their termination with anger. Anger comes in many forms. There can be yelling, gestures, and in the most extreme cases, threats, being in the form of physical harm or intimidation. So how do you address someone who reacts this way? First, allow him or her to express their feelings in a respectful way. If they're yelling or raising their voice, lower your voice and speak calmly to diffuse the situation. Under no circumstances should you respond in a similar way or appear defensive. Use the phrase, "I know this is difficult news to hear," to acknowledge their feelings.
I know this is difficult to hear.
If you fear for your safety, stand and exit the room in a calm yet controlled manner and notify security. You may also want to consider having a member of security on hand if you suspect an employee may become violent, or if they will need to be escorted out of the building once the meeting has ended, per company policy. It can be difficult for the employee to focus in such circumstances, and you may need to restate the decision more than once to ensure the message has been understood. Also, make an effort to review the resources that are available to help them transition, as this may help diffuse their emotional reaction. Determine if you need to schedule a follow-up call to ensure they understand the resources that have been provided. Now, here are a few areas you may want to avoid. Do not attempt to counsel or attempt to resolve the employee's anger, and do not allow an individual to do anything that may cause harm to him or herself or to anyone in the office. Keep security close by if necessary. If today is not their last day, subject to your company's policies, you may want to give them the rest of the day or the week off and determine an acceptable day for them to return before leaving. Even though you're communicating a difficult message, be sure to do so in a manner that maintains both the dignity and respect of the person receiving the news. You should also incorporate a contingency plan as part of your preparation in order to give the transitioning employee sufficient time to compose themselves before leaving the room. According to studies, job loss is considered one of the top 5 most stressful events a person will experience in the course of their lifetime. In fact, many employees will immediately begin to think of their finances the moment they have been told that they're losing their job, and may stop listening to what is being said. A typical response you may hear from someone is, "How will I cope?" Such an individual may also grow quiet or refuse to interact or respond to your questions. They may also start crying. In the event this happens, stay calm and stick to the message. Give the individual time to absorb what you have just told them. Offer to have them speak with someone who can provide additional information on your company's employee assistance program or an HR representative if needed once you have closed your meeting. As compassionate people, it's only natural for us to want to console someone who's upset. However, it's important not to make promises or offer assurances in an attempt to make the transitioning employee feel better. This will only complicate things and provide false hope. Convey the decision as final and be mindful not to rush through the rest of the meeting just because the situation has grown uncomfortable. In cases of bargaining, an employee may ask to stay on through the end of a project, the next quarter, or until the end of the year. They may bring up a recent purchase that they've made, such as a house or a car, or talk about their child's school tuition. When this happens, remember to convey patience and understanding. Restate the facts to ensure that you're being heard and that they understand the decision is final. Let them know you have a plan in place with respect to any outstanding projects or responsibilities. Before we move forward, let's take a moment to speak about notification meetings for remote employees or employees who are not in the office on the day they are being notified. Although the majority of these best practices still apply, notification meetings under these circumstances will most likely be done over the phone and thus require a slightly different approach. When this happens, make sure you specify the time, date, and number you will use to contact the employee when arranging the meeting. You will also want to ensure the employee can take the call in a private location, not, for example, in their car while taking the children to school. Treat the meetings formally and avoid small talk or chit-chat at the top of the call. Conduct this meeting just as you would in person. Close the door to your office so as not to be distracted and silence any electronic devices. Greet the employee appropriately and begin delivering the message. Once finished, confirm the message has been heard and understood. Take time to allow the employee to respond and listen. Be prepared to provide a list of resources such as outplacement benefits. Provide a date by which they can expect to receive resource information by the mail or email. Lastly, make an arrangement for the retrieval of company property such as a laptop or other items, and indicate whether they will need to be returned to the office, in person, or sent via prepaid shipping label. Now that we have discussed a few of the more common employee reactions and how best to respond to these situations, let's review a few tips to help you in most any scenario. Always strive to demonstrate compassion and respect, and stick to the script. Be sure to communicate that you know this is difficult news to hear and avoid taking their response personally. Express appreciation for the employee's contributions during their tenure. When faced with an emotional response, calmly reiterate the decision is final. Do not provide false hope or react defensively. Don't apologize. Avoid using language that might suggest the decision was personal. Convey that this was a business decision and not one that was made lightly. Don't hurry. Give the employee an opportunity to respond. Listen with compassion. Offer tissue or water and allow them time to compose themselves before leaving the room. Although unpleasant, workforce reductions are an unfortunate reality in today's business world. Nevertheless, the manner in which you interact with your employees during notification meetings will influence the way they feel they were treated by your organization. This could impact your company's image and brand. If we strive to treat transition employees with the respect and dignity they deserve, as well as provide them with resources such as outplacement benefits to help during the transition, we can lessen the emotional impact and help them better understand the necessity of such business decisions as they move ahead into their own new beginning. We thank you for joining us.